in Madison, Wisconsin, who is questioning and going through a tough time. The church is helpful, and he can't leave if they're helping him. So, Nick, you're on with Tracie and Matt. Would you like to talk some more about your problem?
Absolutely, yes. Thank you very much.
Sure.
And this actually just happened today, and you two are my favorite hosts, by the way. I listen to this, every week, even though I'm a believer. I'm on the fence, but still a believer. I called last week. Basically, I am going through a rough time. I don't want to go into the details.
Okay.
But
I feel you.
Yeah. Basically, I called. I haven't been in church for about 7 or 8 weeks, and I called my pastor last night, and I said, "Pastor, I'll be at service tomorrow. I really need to talk to you afterwards. I need to talk to someone. I don't want to talk to friends. I don't want to talk to family. I need someone to talk to." He's like, "Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
I'll wait for you." So I went there, and then I hadn't been there, like I said, for 7 or 8 weeks, and everyone there, it's not a big church. It's a evangelical, type thing, with the bands and singing, and but everyone's like, "Welcome back, thank you, thanks for coming." And I talked to the pastor about my problem, and it was a long talk. It was like 45 minutes. And honestly, he really helped me. He really did, just talking to him.
Well, that's good.
And the way I see it is like, look, maybe everything about this God thing is wrong. I believe that Alcoholics Anonymous is wrong. I mean, I think that it's not sound science. It's made up by 2 guys, but it helps some people.
Yeah, the question is...
Going to church today honestly helped me.
Sure.
The question, though, Nick, is there something else that would have helped you even more or in a better way? Is there anything about the religion in particular that makes it helpful in ways that other things can't be? Because a pastor's job is not just to stand up and preach every Sunday, and it depends on, in Church of Christ, they're called preachers, not pastors, and, so it depends on what you do. But to serve as counsel to people within that congregation, the problem is the type of training that they get to do that counseling is quite often not sound, not based on science, and is all focused on the spiritual aspect of an individual and the particular religion or denomination that you're part of. For me, I'd much rather talking to a preacher about my issues is, to me, functionally identical to talking to a friend. I don't necessarily know that the advice I'm going to get is good. I don't know how much it'll help. We talked about in the military, there are chaplains, and they serve to do counseling. I don't think there should be chaplains as paid religious representatives within the military. I think there should be scientific and secular counselors there who have the best information about how to help people get through things. So, yeah, it's not surprising to me that talking to someone, anyone, preacher or not, helped. It's not surprising to me that going to church and being surrounded by a particular community that was welcoming helped. That there are people sitting on the other side of this glass, some of whom are here for the first time, some of them who are here regularly. We've built a community here. There are people who come here because this is where, when they're having problems, there's somebody they can talk to, somebody who can relate, somebody they can interact with. All of that is beneficial. So none of it gets to the truth of the religion, but it definitely brings up this issue of, I'm always glad, like somebody tells me they went to Alcoholics Anonymous and they've stayed sober. I'm glad they are sober. I'm not convinced that Alcoholics Anonymous is doing anything other than replacing one addiction with another. I don't know that it's fundamentally helping them change as a person, or if it can. I mean, that's still up for it. But yeah, it's wholly unsurprising that help of some kind helped.
Well, I mean, I think it just speaks to a need for resources, right? Like, it would be great if we had community counselors. Like, I had a gentleman on that I talked to on this show a while back, Rob Poole, who also I talked to him and did an interview on Godless Bitches like a few months back because he was here in Austin, which was like a rare thing. And he is a preeminent psychiatrist who has done a lot of work in underserved communities. Like he has devoted himself to underserved communities for decades of his career. Now he's, kind of at the end toward of his career. He's an older gentleman. But he'd probably want to smack me for saying that. He'd be like, what? Smack. But no, but the point is, he also works with religious leaders in those communities because a lot of the patients that come in have religious beliefs and religious views and require religious support in addition to what he provides them as a psychiatrist. And so he always has like a network of community religious leaders that he can reach out to for patients that he feels would benefit from that kind of additional support due to their own subjective beliefs.
Especially if the issue is tied up in religion.
Yeah,
it's important to note that you're going to find psychiatrists that are going to give bad advice and preachers that are going to give good advice. My only point was that I think you're more likely to get good, sound advice from experts. I guess
my point, though, is just that he's a resource, right? So he's a resource people can go to get help. He's happy to, give them other resources or consider other resources that can help them in different ways. He helps them as a psychiatrist, but sometimes he might prescribe something or work with a person and he can't help them. And at least if they have a religious community, he feels like now if I fail them, if the medicine doesn't work, they at least have like a community support that they can go to, that they believe in, that can maybe help them feel better in some ways that I can't do because I can't be their buddy, right? I'm their doctor. So you have these different methods of help. And I think what you were basically saying is you had this problem and you needed to talk to an objective person who wasn't part of your life. You didn't feel like comfortable talking to family or friends about it. You wanted to go to somebody that you weren't going to have to run into all the time or know, hey, this person knows this about me now. And I think that it would be great if we had those resources in communities.
Yeah.
And right now, I think like we're building atheist communities. And I think that ultimately there's a lot of people that would like to see those secular resources sort of built up. Like we have a secular therapy project that we work with that is there to help connect people with counselors and therapists that are secular so that they don't have to deal with like religious intrusion into their therapy if, that's not what they're looking for. And so what you're basically saying is just having that someone to go to who is this sort of person who's divorced from other aspects of my life that I have to deal with every day was what I needed, and that's what that pastor was. And what I'm saying is many people can serve as that. It's just that this is like a more structured variety of it that's freely available to most people on most street corners because there's a church, every several blocks, at least where I live. And so if I needed that kind of help, I could run down to a church, and I'm pretty sure that the pastor, not even knowing who I am, would say, come into my office. I'm happy to talk to you.
I have quite a few preachers who are friends of mine, and shortly after Beth and I decided to get divorced, one of them, who's a good friend of mine who I don't see very often, reached out right away, wanted to take me to lunch, see how I'm doing. There was no attempt by him to convert me or force God stuff. He was being a friend and a counselor and, finding out how good or bad things were in my life. I love the fact that, by and large, this service is available for free through churches.
Yes.
Because I think that's more accessible. I would really like to see organizations like the Atheist Community of Austin get tied in with the Secular Therapist Project, where we could have a secular therapist available to people where they didn't necessarily have to pay for it. So now that you're getting some other kinds. But I think we kind of went off on 4 different trails there.
Honestly,
and get back to you.
Man, Tracie, the way I see it is like, this isn't a clinical or scientific thing for me.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, if you want to tell me what happened, if you want me to tell you what happened, I will. But I mean, it's a big deal.
Well, I mean, it just sounds like you had a problem and you needed to talk to somebody that was objective. And
I had a problem with someone I care about.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. And like
I needed to talk to someone, and I knew that my pastor would be there for me.
Yep.
Sure.
I don't know if and like I said, he was there after service.
Sure.
For 45 minutes, we just talked.
Yeah.
Talk through it. And I don't know anywhere else. And I don't want to go to a psychologist for this because, it's not a mental thing for me. It's something that happened to someone I really care about.
Yeah.
But-
I want to insert just one thing. I just want to make one caveat here. Some pastors are employed and don't get paid. But when we say this guy does it, quote, for free, he is actually paid to kind of talk to people that come in off the street. That, you know what I mean? There is this sort of.
I know, but
I was sort of correcting something Matt had said earlier about.
No, I meant that it's free for the individual.
It is
not
free for the individual, but the person is paid. Is a paid resource.
Yeah,
usually
churches have truckloads of money and don't have to pay taxes. But anyway, go ahead.
No, but like I said, it honestly helped me. It really did. I was yesterday. I was, seriously down in the dumps.
Well, see, that's the thing.
What happened to my friend?
That's the thing, and this is there's a reason I'm interrupting here, Nick. It's because a minute ago you were like, "Oh, it wasn't a physical thing. It wasn't a psychological thing." Yes, it was. It absolutely was, because you just described how you were down in the dumps because of what happened. Counseling from a psychotherapist, a psychiatrist, psychologist is not about necessarily mental illness. And by the way, we're not particularly good about describing and defining what is or isn't mental illness. Everything that happens to you is going to be tied to how you process it, what emotions you're going to be taking from it, and trained counselors. Are trained specifically to address those things. It's not like if you walk in and you're feeling down in the dumps because of something that happened, you're going to walk into the psychologist and the first thing they're going to do is like, here's some Ritalin and, go take care of yourself.
Yeah.
It really is about treating the person, and who we are is fundamentally mental and emotional beings.
Yeah, I'll just want to throw this out there for people who may not be aware. If anybody else has this conception of therapy, I went and saw 2 different marriage counselors while I was married. That we were dealing with communication issues. It wasn't that somebody was mentally ill or that It was just like we had communication blocks, and it was kind of frustrating to me personally because a big part of my college degree was communication, and so I was extremely frustrated because I'm like, how is it that I can't figure out how to get around this block? But the whole point was we just needed somebody to intervene, like an intermediary, to get in there and help facilitate these conversations.
We'd fallen into patterns that weren't going to fix it on the
It wasn't getting anywhere, and
Yeah.
they kept coming up, and it was like, look, this can't just keep going again and again and again. Like, we've got to stop this broken record, and we're not successfully doing that between the two of us, so we need a third party who knows how to do that can step in and tell us what it is we're not hearing from each other.
But anyway, I want to make sure you get to your question, so I'll stop.
I don't want to take too much of your time and everything because I know you have other callers. But honestly, all I'm saying is that, what happened today honestly helped me.
Sure.
And I understand what you're saying, where there's, psychologists and everything who can, help you out. This wasn't, like I said, this was what I was upset about was what happened to someone else.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying. But at the end of the day, I'm still on the fence. Like I said, I absolutely accept evolution and all that stuff and everything. I'm not a 6,000-year flat earther or anything. But what happened today honestly helped me.
Sure.
So.
And without sounding incredibly arrogant, I bet if after church you'd have picked up the phone and called me and we talked for 45 minutes, I'm optimistic that would have helped you too.
That could have as well. Yeah. I don't have your number though, and I'm sure you won't give it to me. So
actually,
not
Matt,
while we're live.
Yeah, Matt gives it out quite liberally.
Yeah.
In my
there's a sound
view.
clip for somebody's ringtone.
I was joking, Matt. Come on.
Yeah, you're good. Matt gives it out quite liberally.
Well, guys, I'll let you go, but thanks for listening to me. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks, Nick. And by the way, I'm glad, irrespective of where somebody finds help, I'm glad that somebody's seeking help and getting help.
Yeah.
It's like like I was saying with AA, if that's what's keeping you sober, do it. For the caller who says that if they didn't believe in God, they'd be running around murdering and raping people, I want them to keep their ass in church. It's independent of whether or not I think there's anything real going on behind the scenes.
Okay.
Whatever helps you, helps you. That's
Yep.
It does. All right. Well, thank you, Nick. We're going to go ahead and move on. We'll get to